edition of the Social Democrats USA Public Forum. We're very pleased to be back here in Carnegie, Pennsylvania, where we were in 2014. In fact, in the very same venue, the Carnegie stage. And we want to, of course, thank Hans and Virginia Grunert, who managed the stage, managed this theater, and thank them for joining us and welcoming us into their venue. Hans is a member of Social Democrats USA and has a long history actually in social democracy, even from his youth in Germany when he was a member of the SPD. So we have next to me Patty Friend. She is our chair. I am the treasurer and former chair. Patty is our current chair. And next to her is Michael Modern. He is our vice chair. And at this time, I would invite Patty to give some opening remarks.
Welcome, everybody. We're delighted to be here and excited that you can join us. As you know, we not only are having guests and speakers from Europe and other parts of the world, but we are also Skyping out to members whom we have in Europe and other parts of the world. So just a big hello and welcome to everybody. Yesterday was also our convention, and we did a lot of work on resolutions, which were passed, all of which were passed but one, and that one has been tabled to be taken up by our next NEC meeting, at which point we've been alerted that there will be a majority position and a minority report or position, and that's all of those resolutions as they were amended will be up on, is it the website or?
Yes. Will
be up on the website. So for those of you who are interested in voting on them or just seeing how they were amended, you're welcome to go to the website and—
They're not up there yet.
Okay, they're not up there yet, but certainly after next week they will be. And if you have any questions that you want to ask anybody, you're welcome to email them or you can even call us. So I just wanted to let you know which ones they were. The first one was a resolution on American drug policy, and the resolution itself is not very long. It's only, I don't know, about 5 paragraphs. But there is a position paper which we have endorsed and included on the website because we think it's really one of the best that we've seen on the issues, and we feel that it's really, really worth your reading and perhaps downloading and having with you when you go to table or when you are asked for examples of our literature.
The name of that organization that posted that position?
Michael, what's the name?
The Drug Policy Alliance.
Right. Yeah, okay.
The Drug Policy Alliance.
And this is very important. They do really, really good work, and they're actually a coalition of organizations. So we urge you to check that out. Next, we did one on Summer for Progress. Let's move our country forward. And basically, what this resolution does is to endorse the People's Platform that was developed by the House Democrats. And this People's Platform basically is a list of, or a gathering, I don't know what to call it. Anyway, it's a number of bills, legislation that is already before the Congress. And you and anyone in your locals, we are urging you to call your elected officials and especially your Congresspeople and urge them to vote for these particular bills. And if the Speaker won't take them up, then let's protest that. We're talking about number one, Medicare for All, which is H.R. 676, or Medicaid for All Act. Number two, free college tuition, H.R. 1880, College for All Act of 2017. Number three, workers' rights, really important, H.R. 50, well, they're all important. H.R. 15, and it's called Raise the Wage Act. Number four is women's rights, H.R. 771. And this, ladies and gentlemen, take seriously. Equal access to abortion coverage in health insurance, acronym Each Woman, Act of 2017. 5 is voting rights. Can't be more important than that. H.R. 2840, and that is an automatic voter registration act. 6, environmental justice, climate change bill, renewable energy, okay? And then 7 is criminal justice and immigrant rights, H.R. 3227, Justice is Not for Sale Act of 2017. And then last but not least, we have 8, Taxing Wall Street, H.R. 1144, Inclusive Prosperity Act. And as we say, our last sentence on this resolution is, the status quo isn't working. This summer, let's work together to get House Democrats to put back our People's Platform. Okay, so that was that one. Then we had one on women's reproductive rights. And the title of this is, and I'm stating this because this is important to know our position here. We acknowledge the liberatory potential of religion, while at the same time are fully committed both to the separation of church and state and women's productive justice. And with that, I'm not going to go into any more detail on that because it is this is involved, and it's all going to be on the website, and we urge you to read that carefully. And then finally, the resolution that was tabled to the NEC meeting. And this is on the boycott and divestment of investments in Israel. The title of this is, After 50 Years of Occupation, a Social Democratic Zionist Case Critically Endorsing the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions Movement, a Resolution Essay. This is, a very involved and complicated problem. And as I stated earlier, within us, some of us support the BDS movement, and there are those of us who do not. And while this particular document is extremely well written and states the case very well and robustly, as I said, there is a minority position. We don't want to split the organization over a vote on this, and those of us who seem to be in the minority are willing to compromise and write a minority report to address our difficulties with this particular resolution. So, without further ado, I will also point out that in the afternoon, we had a robust conversation and panel discussion, round table, whatever you want to call it, on organizing and organizing locals in particular. And we just had, we did a lot of discussion of methods and tips for organizing your own locals. And at this point, I think I'm talking too long. So I'm just going to tell you that the major rule for organizing is, apologies to Woody Allen, but basically 90% of organizing is showing up. And the best way to do it is to show up with at least one more person than yourself. And when you think about the task in front of you, you know, you're building social democracy in America. And what could be more exciting than that? And I also want to just say that, you know, when the basic thing about organizing, I mean, yes, you know, there's tabling, there's literature, there's, you know, books to recommend, there's arguments to have, there's all sorts of things that go into organizing. And some people take years to figure it out. But I really believe, having been doing it since I was a little girl, that when it all comes down to it, there aren't really any secrets. And organizing is really a matter of one person finding another person and figuring out how to get to them. And then doing your best to do so. So with that, I will turn it over to Rick and welcome you all again. And we're just thrilled to be here and to have you with us. So
Thank you. So our first session this morning, we have 3 sessions planned this morning. The first one is regarding democracy movements in Eastern Europe. We have had contact over the years with social democratic parties in Eastern Europe, and we're pleased to have some folks Skyping in this morning, there late afternoon, to talk about what's happening over there. And it sounds like a couple of our folks are having trouble getting a connection, but we do have Veselin Tonev from the Social Democratic Party in Bulgaria on right now. So if we can get Veselin on screen. There he is. Veselin, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And I would like to thank you for inviting me here. I hope you are able to hear me and to see me.
Yes, we can. Is
Okay.
is Emil on as well, or is not able to join us?
Oh, he's here with us.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Very good. So we have 2 members of the party there. Emil is the leader of the party. He is in Sofia at the moment. So we have 2 separate feeds coming in. Is that right, Veselin?
Yes, absolutely. Just one short note. So Emil is the chairman of the Association Social Democrat under the Bulgarian Social Democratic Party. So he is not exactly the chairman of the party itself, but the chairman of our social democratic organization.
Okay. Okay, very good. And Emil does not speak English?
Yes, correct.
So you're going to translate as best you can as we We talk back and forth, and hopefully everyone will be a little patient with that process.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay. So my first question, Veselin, is there seems to be in Eastern Europe today a nationalist movement, even some of which we have seen in the United States, of course, and in England. We're seeing it in Poland. We're seeing it certainly in Turkey and Hungary. Tell us what the situation is in Bulgaria right now.
So, a short translation for Емил. Има въпроси за националистическите движения, които се зараждат в цяла Европа, не само в Източна, но в Англия и наблюдаваните в Полша. So, Bulgaria is the situation in Bulgaria, in my opinion, is a little bit different. So, as per historical science, our country consists from the very beginning in three nations. So it's a Proto-Bulgarians, Proto-Slav, and Proto-Thrax. So by design, there is no such strong nationalism here. On the contrary, I will say that most of the population is still supporting very hardly the idea for the European Union, for the United Europe, unlike some other countries. Of course, we are not completely avoid from this nationalistic wave, but I do believe that the nationalism which we saw here is not that big and not that sharp as, for example, in other European regions.
So at the moment you have a government which is center-right, led by GERB.
Yes.
And the Prime Minister is Borisov.
Yes.
How is the policy of their government in social democratic terms?
Well, the government itself is center-right, so it's we cannot expect too much social democratic action from their side. But the good thing is that the government, at least in my opinion, lead the country in the right direction. So they confirm all our commitments to all international organizations, as I already mentioned, for the European Union itself, also our commitment to NATO and ATO, and all other international contracts we have signed up. Also, from the point of view of social policy, I think that it's their third time which this party make a government here. And from pure social point of view, I think that the things are going on in proper direction as well. Of course, with not that speed as could be expected from a center-left government. But I do believe that slowly they are going ahead.
So what is
in the right direction as well.
What is the argument that's being made then by the center-left parties? What are they suggesting they would do differently?
Well, it's mostly that policy mostly focused on education. I will say that the education is very, very important for us as a social democratic organization. Also, there is a recent, I will say, a recent action which has been organized by Ombudsman of the Republic against the private enforcement agents' right. So the idea behind is to have their rights a little bit decreased, because right now by the law they can do almost anything with the property of people here.
I see. Pat, did you have a question?
Well, I'm really curious as to how you see your parties, or our parties, position in the country right now in terms of power or influence? And then what do you see for its future? There it is.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really optimistic for the future. So why? Because on the last election, there was a first attempt for establishing a social democratic coalition, which participated in our election. Unfortunately, our forces are not that big as we would like to be here. So the party which I represent has a really very rich history. It's more than 1,020 years, I think. It's now in Bulgaria also have few more social democratic organizations or organizations that are claiming that they are protecting and working for social democratic idea. And actually, this was, on the last election, this was the first attempt since many years to do something together. So, yeah, we reached out another organization, and some of them joined as a joint forces. Unfortunately, there was not planned elections because the government resigned, and we have a very small time to prepare ourselves. So, but I do believe that the next time we will present better. So right now we are a part of outside parliamentary opposition.
Thank you. Do you have any comments about your neighboring country of Romania seems to have had more success in pushing a social democratic government, and they actually have a majority of parliament now. Do you think that that's a sign for a better future for Bulgaria, that they're your neighbors and they're having success?
Well, it's hard to say and hard to make such a parallel with Romania in this time. I'm not sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that their social democrats are perhaps successor of the former Communist Party. Of course, again, I'm not sure at all about this.
Okay, very good, thank you. We also have now online Solt Cesar from Budapest. Solt, good afternoon.
Hello, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, because I can only see one person and I can't even see myself on the video call. The one, I think, from Bulgaria who was talking.
Yes.
Anyway, I can only repeat the last few sentences that he said, that the social democratic parties are not real social democratic parties in Hungary, because the so-called Socialist Party is nothing but the party of the communists, who are not even communists anymore. So they are just there for the politics and the personal gains that they can get from being in politics. But now actually they are so bad that I'm not even sure if they will get into the parliament in next year in the election. They're trying to get a social democratic something program at a few months before they have a new leader, where a candidate for prime minister. And he has a program that has social democratic elements, but I personally, and I don't think most of the people of Hungary don't believe it, because it just, they just try to use this ideology to further their own aim, which basically they are so discredited that nobody really wants them back in power. So the left actually in Hungary is in complete ruins, very similar to Poland, where there is no left basically. And if everything goes the same as it's going now, then in Hungary there will be a conservative party, and we might even call them a fascist or neo-Nazi parties, and very few other small liberal parties. They might get into the parliament, might not. So it's really bad. And the main reason I think is because the people don't really see any point of participating in the democratic process, so they just don't care, and they just kind of shrug and say that, well, we cannot change anything. So it's basically a complete disillusionment of the democracy, which after 26 years now I can actually understand, because nothing really got better here. We still work for like $500 a month, but when the prices are almost the same as in West Europe, and neither the West European social democratic parties care much, or basically nobody, that workers are so much exploited in East Europe, and it's even worse from more east of Hungary, that, you know, it's not even an issue. They not even raise this problem. And they just, basically the European Union right now, it's configured very much a way for the European corporations. They're really happy to use the workers of the Eastern European people, but they don't really think they should give them more money. And one reason is because they are not organized. The unions here basically just doing the same as it was before. They're just serving their own aims, and the Communist Party, they were serving the Communist Party by not letting the people really organized. So the result is there's no opposition for the exploitation, and you know, try to work for $500 a month.
So in Turkey right now, what's happening is the Western European countries are using low-paid workers in Hungary in order to fatten their wallets a bit, to make money,
Yes,
and
of course.
so they're taking advantage of the situation. And
I know.
do you think
That's what I'm
that
saying.
so the population of Hungary then is? Or like you have the main party, Fidesz, is a right-wing party, and you have even a further right-wing party, which is a fascist party, Jobbik. You say that, are the people voting for these parties because of this reason, or are they, as you say, just not participating at all?
Well, the people voted for Fidesz because they have a charismatic leader, and many people believe in him, but in a belief as a sense like almost a religion belief, and they just not realize that there can be a better way. For the Jobbik, well, they are ultra-nationalistic and very much anti-Jewish and anti-Gypsy, which unfortunately resonates well in many areas of Hungary. Well, not so much the Jewish rhetoric, but the Gypsy more so because of historical reasons. And right now, that's the better organized one. And there is no money and no funds available for the left. Because, for example, one thing that the Fidesz did, they just set on everything. They're trying to get all, and I mean all of the media outlets, all the newspapers, all the TVs, everything, even the internet portals. And you know, it's very hard to say anything when you can get your voice out. Plus, there's they're saying that they're trying to boost like a Hungarian capitalist. So we have our own bourgeois system. But what actually happens is just the prime minister friends get much richer from government contracts, and they basically get all the money from the European Union. What the European Union wants to do any kind of development, only the companies that close to the prime minister gets these contracts, and of course they do it with a really big margin, so they make lots of profits, and you know, things gets done, but it's really much waste. And you know, the reason is, I mean, the more of the outcome is that 600,000 people are out of Hungary now in West Europe, and 1 million thinking. And you know, it might not be a big number, but the country population is about 10 million.
Okay.
So basically, they're voting with their legs.
Wow.
So with the membership in the EU, the population has the right to migrate, which is, of course, a very controversial issue in the EU right now with the immigration into Western Europe, and it's the main reason, really, that the voters in the UK have decided to leave the EU. It was predominantly an issue of worker migration.
Yes, that's true. And actually, I think the other reason is for the Brexit, that they just wanted to send a message to their political elite that they are fed up. And they used this referendum misguidedly to achieve this aim, and now they might have a second thoughts or third even, but they do what they do. I don't know how can they be this well. I don't really want to use any kind of bad word, but it's really not wise.
Yeah.
But they will see. So they already see it because that I think around 2 million people of UK living in Europe, like pensioners, and they just in Spain and France, and they have their pension cut like whatever percent the euro is up against the pound. So that's their decision, and I think it's the complete lack of solidarity what happened between the countries in this regard, because it's a way of showing a solidarity that even if my company, the UK company, is not going to pay as much as in UK in Hungary, but if the Hungarian worker who wants to go and make a living there, they will get at least the minimum wage, which is much higher, about 3-4 times higher than in Hungary. So that's kind of a solidarity, and many people send lots of money back to home from these countries, and they basically kind of a safety net for their parents who live off like $200 dollars a month, because that's their pension. So basically, it's enough for food, and this they were saying it's only enough to die, nothing else. So that's a really big thing that we should start talking about in Europe, and I plan to, whenever I have a chance, to go to European social democratic parties, because they basically all focused on their own countries. And when I asked, for example, some help, they were saying that they don't help the European Union members anymore because they are all set. They help only the developed world countries to have everything what they want to achieve. So I don't know. It's not. It doesn't look too promising. The only hope I have is that it will get better after it gets worse.
So we had, Jordan, we had a couple of photos from Budapest when I was there in 2014. Evan, can you put those up? Sure. I had the opportunity representing this organization, Social Democrats USA, to go to Budapest in 2014 to help promote social democracy in Hungary. And as Solt has already mentioned, the left is almost non-existent in Hungary now. The government is ruled by a center-right party, and the fascist party, Jobbik, has almost as much power as the Socialist Party, which is the Socialist Party is basically just the former communist and is very corrupt. So I was in Budapest, and what I noticed was that the pensioners were really, really struggling. There were long lines of seniors who were lining up for free lunches and food handouts. I mean, lines that go around the block of a building. And it was really quite incredible. Of course, Hungary at that time, in 2014, I had just come from Paris, where they were remembering the 100th anniversary of the assassination of Jean Jaurès, who was a great hero in our movement. Jean Jaurès was killed in the summer of 1914 and was probably the only guy in the whole world who could have stopped World War I from happening. And his reward was a bullet. So that immediately, when I left there from Paris and the exhibits remembering Jean Jaurès, I went to Budapest, where, of course, World War I was basically ignited by an assassination of Franz Ferdinand and his wife, and by a Serbian anarchist. So everybody at that time was remembering how destructive war is, cataclysmic on the peoples. But at the very same time, the government today is not taking care of its seniors and not working to improve the wages and living standards for its working people. So Hungary has a lot of difficult roads ahead for it. There's not any kind of a infrastructure for the left there, and as Solt has said, he can only hope that it will get better after it gets worse. So a little different situation. Solt also mentioned the nationalist movement in Hungary, which is based on some amount of racism, especially the discrimination and actions against the Roma population, what we call gypsies here. The Romas, a migrant population for centuries in Hungary, and also the remnants of the Jewish population in Hungary as well. So, as is always the case, governments with ill intent will incite divisions amongst people in order to maintain power. So Evan says that there's some pictures up. I can't see them here. Okay, so there's a picture. We had a press conference in Budapest. The gentleman sitting next to me was at that time the chair of the Social Democratic Party in Hungary. And we had a press conference that day talking about the values of social democracy. The fellow on my near side there was George Suha. He was my translator and also a member of the government. The candidate, Andor Schmuck, was running for office at that time. So we had a very nice press conference. We had a good turnout. There was a lot of people there. And I guess the other pictures that we have are the same, are they not, Evan? Yeah, just a couple pictures of the same thing. So we had this press conference, and then we also had the next day a rally, a campaign rally in support of social democracy in Hungary. But again, the movement is so weak. It's really tragic, but it's actually somewhat reminiscent of here in the Western Hemisphere, where we might see Central American governments, which the people are very poor and the government is interested in maintaining power and enriching itself through government contracts with outside firms. So you have a big struggle ahead of you, Solt. We certainly wish you the very best.
Yeah, actually I have a few plans that if I can say about it, what you can do when you have basically nothing.
Yes.
And
Yeah, please.
And it actually includes that I'm probably going to set, there are no media. So what I'm trying to do a podcast and like once a weekly talk about the news with a social democratic view. So people will actually know more about it, and trying to get that, make popular through Facebook and other things where I have no government control yet. And I'm trying to get like a fund this thing. So maybe a few $1,000 or something will come out of it, and it will enable us to have our views out. And that's one thing. And the other thing actually is probably more promising, but probably takes longer, to try to reorganize the unions, because the current unions are not doing what they're supposed to do. And we need those type of unions that actually do what they need to do, to fight for workers. And if that will succeed, right now we have a few members who were higher up. For example, one of the ex-train unions boss is with us, so he has some experience, and he probably will have a lot with this. But we need to find those people in the union who actually can and will be able to do what they need to do. So we probably will fund our own unions and start organizing workers from that point too. Because basically we are in the same situation as in like 1890, where there were no worker representation. We had to start from zero, start with unions, start with with a party that will go and represent the workers in the parliament. So that's the only thing we can do right now. I don't think anything we can go and get a shortcut. We have to do the whole thing, except that it's different because right now the world is different. There are no big factories where lots of dozens of people work. So the union has to be a different place and probably have to be organized more locally that they can make. Like, for example, if somebody has a problem, the union members in that city, they go out and make a rally in front of the company headquarters or wherever with the press, because there is a few press who is kind of semi-independent. So that type of thing, and it will be really a long way off to achieve anything. But I hope that, one by one, we gain a bit more and more, and then like a chain reaction, as soon as we reach a critical mass, that will happen. But it's lots of work now, and we have to find a way to get funded, because without it, nothing can be done. You cannot organize anything when you have basically no money. So that's the reason why I want to reach out for the Western comrades, if they exist, and try to get something like. I would be, for example, happy with the European-wide Social Democratic Party, not these country-by-country parties. But they heard me, some of them, and they probably brushed it off, but they might want to think about it later. I hope so, at least.
So we have in the United States a number of areas in the southern part of the country which are weak areas for labor organizing, and the solution seems to be a mix. As you have pointed out, the local workers have to stand up for themselves, and also you need some help from outside. So we have labor unions in the states where unions are more solid, helping to organize those workers in those states where the unions are weak. And most of that weakness is caused by government oppression of organizing efforts. So we see certainly what you say. It has to be a combination of all of the factors in order to make something successful. Veselin, in Bulgaria, do you have the labor unions? Did you mention what the status of labor unions is in Bulgaria at the moment?
Well, I do believe that it's, of course, we have a few of them. It's more or less the same situation as in Hungary, I do believe. So basically, for sure, they could behave a little better with protecting the rights of the worker. There is no doubt with that, but I wouldn't agree that we are in the same situation as it was in the 1988. So I think that in this time it's let's say better. So on that time it was a really, really terrible, horrible totalitarianism. Now the things looks at least better. So one of our unions was established during the changes, the political changes. So his name is Podkrepa, and it's the people there still trying to do their best to protect the rights of the workers, but for sure there is room for improvement, I think.
Patty, did you have a question?
I'm really kind of devastated by what our comrade in Hungary is saying, and I just grieve for your situation. But I'm wondering, do you think that, social media has turned out to be a really great, incredible organizing tool here in America, and a way for us older activists to be able to reach out and work with younger ones, and especially the 20 to 30 something year olds that we refer to as millennials, which I don't like the term, but it happens to be the one we use. But my question is, do you think, I mean, it sounds like in many ways you're kind of starting over from what we call starting from scratch. You're starting from the beginning. And my question is, do you find young people, 20s and 30-year-olds, whom you can activate, who even understand you when you talk about solidarity and voting and political activism and or union organizing around workers' rights? Do they understand what you're talking about, and do you find any whom you could train to be organizers themselves and then go out and work with others of their generation? Do you see any hope with them?
Yes. They understand it completely. The problem with the continuity, in 1948, the Communist Party merged with the Social Democratic Party, with the Russian, with the help of the Russian tanks. So basically, it got stopped, and 2 generations did nothing as a workers' organization. And we have one member who is 97 years old, who got member in 1938, just before the World War, and he's basically the only living person who remembers anything when the workers' movement was doing something for the workers. And there is no knowledge, because the knowledge what had all these union members or the union leaders are basically not applicable for a capitalist system. And they just trying this, trying that, and not really know what to do exactly. There were a few at the time of the system, when the system changed in 1989 and 90, there were a few people who actually helped and got some education in this regard. And but they are old again, because at the time they were like 40s, 60s, and then now they are pensioners and they're just too old to do anything. So this is one big thing, that there are not many people who actually know what to do. The youth are open. When I talk to them, they agree with me, but they don't really think that they can actually do anything meaningful. Sometimes you can see rallies that are organized in Budapest in springtime, and there were a few of them where mostly the youth went out, and they went out. That's all. So they have to see that it's a learning process, that's just not enough. They have to actually do the small detailed work, and there's no other way how to do it, just as a labor union do. What I actually think is very important, I never heard anywhere that the capital is global. It means that, for example, Mercedes, who has a new factory a few years ago in 2012 when they opened in Hungary, there's a new factory there, and they have, I don't know how many, maybe 5 different ones everywhere. And they make 1/5 what they make with the Mercedes in Germany. And I think if they say that, okay, they want to strike or anything, what will happen that they can say that we can move away further east, even cheaper labor. What would they do if the unions were as global as the capital? So they would say that they're not only striking in Hungary if they don't raise the wage, but they strike in Germany. I think that would be a different story completely. But then the workers' movement has to be global as well as the capital. And we have to find each other, and we have to support each other, and we have to set common goals. And yes, we have to do what we need to do. Otherwise, they can just use that people are in different countries, and they can just move around easily, and it will be even easier in the future. So I think that would be a really big point if the union could be as global as the capital.
Sure, yeah.
But I see the Facebook and other outlets to reach people, and we actually had a few minimal success where we engaged a few youth, but they were most of the time they were thinking about the Jobbik rhetoric, it's interesting because they're the only one in the Hungarian political climate that actually talk about workers' rights and, for example, a wage union with Europe, which is actually, I think it's foolish because if they would just raise the minimum wage to the level of Germany, let's say, that it would cause immediately a 20-30% unemployment. See? But anyway, that's a slogan what they use, that we have to make as much money as the West, like right away. But that's the reason why the youth actually is thinking that's the Jobbik that stands for them. They are the most popular party within the youth. But I know that they basically are only supporting the youth because they didn't see any better out there. Everybody's disappointed, everybody else, the parties. So basically they think that no party is for them and they cannot do anything. But if we find them, and I think we will find them, I will find a way, I'm sure, then one by one, and then later on maybe by small groups we can achieve something. But only when they realize that there is hope for them and there is somebody who stands up for them. The only problem I can see, the requirement that they have to stand up for themselves and they have to stand up for somebody else who's in need. They have to learn that, they have to do that, because Hungary is very individualistic in this regard. Everybody wants to do what is good for him or her only, and nothing else, nothing more. And they've been doing this for 26 years now, and you can see where it led. In 1990, the Hungarian workers for the same job, for the same position, get about 1/3, 1/4 what the Western European workers. After 26 years, where it's exactly the same. So you see there's no improvement, and it's the cause, I think it is cause because they don't really do what they need to do. Yes?
Okay.
Veselin, we're almost out of time for this section, so I wanted to ask you if you had any comments and if Emil wanted to say anything in particular.
Well, I would like to share our email address if somebody wants to ask something additional or to exchange ideas. So we are widely open for that. So our email address is info@socialdemocrat.eu. And for Zlota, especially, we can share our experience with working for young people. So that's why was established Social Democratic Group Association here as a non-governmental organization. And I do believe that we have a good progress with that one, with explaining, especially of the young people, what is social democracy, what is the idea behind, because we are facing, I do believe, with the same problem as Hungarian people here.
Great.
So,
Good.
Emo.
So maybe we can bring you together.
If I may ask a question, Rick, real quick to our colleagues in
course,
Europe.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
That would be nice.
I don't
Yeah.
think he can hear you. What's the question, Michael?
My question is, with the recent upsurge in popularity with social democratic candidates like Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders, what's the opinion of the Eastern Europeans about those about those surges in popularity in England and the United States?
I don't know if you could hear the question, gentlemen. In the West, we have some social democratic politicians who are making progress. And does this give you any hope for maybe some future spin-off for Eastern Europe as well?
Well, first of all, you know about Bernie Sanders in America and Jeremy Corbyn in England or Great Britain. So we're thinking that the question is, with their new popularity or newfound popularity, especially with younger people here in the States and there in Great Britain, are they getting any kind of greater attention from your youth, or just from your media, your media at all? Are they popular with you? Either one of you.
Well, in Hungary, they are reported, and that's about it. What I think is how it would affect the Hungarian youth. Well, they need somebody like that. But one of the promises that free education, higher education, it is free in Hungary. So it's not really a big change for them. The first diploma at least is free. The second, not necessarily. So that's they not really an issue for the youth. There are other things, basically, that they can say. In Jeremy Corbyn's case, I don't really like his stand on European unions.
Okay.
I don't think he
Yeah.
he actually. I think I'm one of those who blame him because for this fiasco, because he didn't really went out and said yes, we need to stay in the
Yeah.
European unions.
Yeah.
He himself has
Yeah.
some other thoughts about it, and I think he's representing that the UK first with the workers. He doesn't really like, I think, the Eastern European workers being in the UK. He thinks that it's lowering their wages or losing the opportunity to get better wages in England. So I don't really think he is a man who can be, reached out and help us anyway.
Okay.
And Sanders, he is actually, I think he's great. The only thing that, I'm not sure if the American public receptive enough that he could be something who makes a difference. I hope so, but I lived in America a few years, and the mindset is, I think it's too radical for them at the moment. Even the word socialist has so bad connotations that I wouldn't use that word in America if I was not speaking to you, just an average Joe. So that's his challenge, and I think he can really do a big impact. How to start thinking a bit differently, because I think in America there were always kind of like a shortage of workers, and that pulled wages up. But for a long time, it's not really growing. And I think they need to address this issue, because more and more money goes to the companies, to the owners of the companies, and less for the workers.
Right.
So I don't really think that either Jeremy Corbyn or Bernie Sanders have much effect with the Hungarian youth or generally with the Hungarian people. But for example, Schulz in Germany, who's the Social Democratic leader now, could have a much bigger effect. But it's depends what's going on. Probably Merkel will get elected again, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. But we probably can get much more inspiration from Germany, because Hungary historically follows German patterns. The American and the English happenings are not really much followed or taken as a something that we have to emulate.
Okay.
Thank you, Comrade. Veselin, do you have, I asked if Emil had any comments, because we haven't really had a chance to hear from him, and we have to finish up this section, so.
Yes, he would like to mention something, so Emil, please go ahead. Emil, давай, полегай. Чуваме ли се, Емил? Давай, полегай. Да? So Emil saying that he would like to thank you once again for invitation on this forum. It was extremely important for you to participate in this one.
Well, we thank all of you for your participation. It's been very enlightening, and
Yes, indeed.
and great to hear from you. We have concerns, of course, what's happening in Eastern Europe, and obviously you have your own concerns. So we wish you the very best, and any help that we can provide, we certainly would do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
For the invitation.
We'll be in touch.